without working with the team, the work with the CEO is sort of not as effective as it could be.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Law of Business. I'm Jamil Jama, and I interview entrepreneurs that can help you to start and grow your business. And our outstanding guest today is Jack McGuinness. He's a leadership team effectiveness consultant and executive coach. And in this interview, we're going to be talking about how to build a great leadership team, tips to re-energize your leadership team, the leadership role in building a great leadership team, how to measure leadership team effectiveness, the art of great feedback. And I'm going to be interviewing Jack McGuinness. And Jack McGuinness has over 25 years of experience working with leadership teams and organizations, big and small, across multiple industries. He helped build a successful boutique management consulting firm where he served as COO for 13 years. Jack also served as a CEO of a contract packaging company where he developed a passion for unleashing the leadership capacity of teams throughout an organization. In 2009, Jack joined forces with a West Point classmate to form Relationship Impact, a consulting firm focused on working with CEOs to unlock the potential of their leadership teams. He also serves as a Senior Professional Instructor at the Johns Hopkins Carey School of Business, where he teaches courses on strategic management and human capital. He is a contributing writer to Chief Executive magazine, and Jack also holds an MBA from the Hagan School of Business at Iona College and a BS in engineering management from the United States Military Academy at West Point. So it's a real pleasure to have our special guest, Jack McGuinness, on the show. Jack, thank you so much for being here. How's it going?
Great, Jamil. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to our discussion.
So am I, Jack. Before we get to the interview questions, I always ask my guests this.
Sure.
What is your backstory? Where did you from when you started to where you are now? What is your entrepreneur story, please?
I guess right out of college, I joined the military. I went to West Point, and I served 3 years with the 10th Mountain Division. And while I was getting my MBA, I was trying to figure out sort of what I wanted to do. And I got very lucky. My brother was a senior executive at Verizon. I guess it was Bell Atlantic way back then, but was working with a consultant from Deloitte, a partner at Deloitte. And right at the time I was in business school, he was just about to start his own consulting firm. So at the age of 25 or 26, I got the privilege of being his first employee and helping start a management consulting firm, a boutique management consulting firm that competed with the likes of Deloitte and McKinsey and all the big consulting firms, because my partner, or my boss, really was a partner at one of those companies, and the firms that we work with were big Fortune 100, 500 companies. And so I got the experience of not only being a green consultant to start and learning how to be a consultant, but also learning how to build a business. At our peak, we were about 50 employees, and worked in 3 sectors. And I wound up really running the firm operationally. I ran our 3 business sectors. I ran my own projects as well, but help build the infrastructure, the human resources, the accounting and finance, all the guts of how to make a business tick. And so that was my first foray. Really didn't have wasn't necessarily a plan to be an entrepreneur, but I tripped into it at a very early age. And so that's really where I got my start. And and through the course of my career, as you mentioned before, I bought a contract packaging company and ran that for a while. I was a fixer-upper, sort of an entrepreneurial adventure. And then through the course of, since 2009, started this firm with a classmate of mine. And really, we work with lots of entrepreneurs to help them figure out how to build great leadership teams so they can effectively scale their companies. So not only do I have a little bit of experience as an entrepreneur myself, but I really work with entrepreneurs every day in the course of my business and help them through the trials and tribulations, and obviously learn a lot from their trials and tribulations as well.
Yeah. In your story, you mentioned human resource. You help with the human resource.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most important thing, right? The human resource, the human capital.
It is. It's there's two parts of the human resources thing. The first is sort of just building the transactional part of it as compensation and benefits. And through the course of the growth of the first consulting firm I worked with, we saw a change in the benefits packages going from the employee paid for everything to they got too expensive, so you had to get the employees to pay into it a little bit, and so there's all the transactional side, and then there's the how do you build a culture where people want to join your firm and most importantly want to stay at your firm. And so, I think we did a really good job of that. And I won't really take much of the credit there. I think my partner, the guy who really founded the firm, was great at building a culture of hard work, diligence in terms of the service we provided to our customers, and a fun work environment. A difficult, hard, a lot of work hours and all that kind of stuff. But we did fun work, and we encouraged people to learn and grow as well. I give a lot of the credit for where I am now to my first business partner.
Awesome. So you invested in the people, basically.
Oh, we invested it. We invested in a lot of on-the-job training, frankly, but also in bringing people in from the outside to help us with things like project management, sending people out to leadership training like self-awareness, those types of things, and we definitely invested a lot in our employees.
Yeah, because I've noticed a lot of companies, they invest in the products, they invest in the marketing, they invest in if they have a brick and mortar business, they invest in the building, the decoration, etc. But they don't really invest in the people that much. And the most important thing is the human resource. If you build the people will build a company.
Yeah, and that was sort of our mantra as well. And really our investment was we hired fairly senior people and expected them to hit the ground running. So our investment in them was in providing them with the opportunity to do really cool work with really cool clients, and in some respects to sort of pick and choose their destiny within the firm. We had some policies and procedures in terms of how you did what you did, but on the spectrum of bureaucratic to loose, we were sort of more towards you're a smart person, go figure out and do good work. So that's kind of how we really looked at the investment in our people, and it was really an attractive model for senior people.
There's a research I found on Forbes, and it says basically new research shows why focusing on teams, not just leaders, is key to business performance. So you got to focus on a team and not just the leaders.
I couldn't agree anymore. We're asked every once in a while to do some executive coaching work with an individual leader or an individual CEO, and we really don't do that anymore, because what we found is that without working with the team, the work with the CEO is sort of not as effective as it could be. Which I think
you need both, right? You need a good leader and good followers.
No question about it. No question about it. But from our perspective, we're, particularly with growing companies, focusing on the leadership team and getting the leadership team in sync, both, at all levels, strategically, operationally, culturally, is critical to the health of the organization and the long-term prospects for the organization being successful.
So, Jack, what are the characteristics of great leadership teams? And before that, there's a quote by Michael Jordan. This is a real awesome quote, because Michael Jordan has won a lot of championships. So
yeah, sure.
He obviously knows a lot about teamwork and stuff. Michael Jordan basically said, talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships.
Yeah, I've used that quote before in some of the talks I give, and I couldn't agree anymore. That from our perspective, and it really piggybacks. I hope it will build the foundation of that quote. There's a few things that we think are really important from what in terms of the characteristics of a great team. The first is obviously that a team is a leadership team is the steward of the organization and is really responsible for overseeing and contributing to the achievement of tangible, measurable business results. So great teams get great results. The other thing that I think Michael Jordan was getting at in his quote there is that we've seen that great teams have impact way above and beyond the contributions of any one individual on the team. So, even Michael Jordan, who was arguably maybe the best or one of the best players that ever played in the NBA, even he thinks that it was not just him, it was the contributions of the five on the floor that made the team go. I think another thing that's really important is that great teams over time build the capacity to solve more difficult challenges, right? And so in the beginning, you tackle the challenges that are in front of you, but over time, you get good at really attacking bigger and more complex challenges. And I think one of the biggest things from our perspective, when we see a great leadership team, is their ability to be resilient and get back on track after they fall off the tracks, right? And so the ability to be resilient and get, like things are going to happen. And so how do you react to that? And how do you build the resilience so that you can get back in sync? And all of those things, getting results, having a force multiplier effect, being able to deal with more complex challenges over time, and being resilient are really characteristics that you want to build in your organization, right? And so if the leadership team has those characteristics at their heart and soul, then the likelihood of them being able to build that fiber into the rest of the organization is greatly increased. And
have you read that book, Resilient?
I have not. No.
You heard of it?
I'm a huge reader too.
Have you heard of it though?
I have not.
It's written by Michael Jordan's coach. Michael Jordan's coach. I'm not a Michael Jordan fan, by the way.
What's that?
I'm not a Michael Jordan fan. But, let me get the book Resilient. The book is called Relentless.
Relentless. Okay. Yeah.
And
that one I've seen in the bookstore. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's Michael Jordan's former coach. Relentless by Tim Grover. That's it.
Can you imagine making? So I want you to think about this. I want you to think about.
And he's Michael Jordan's personal trainer, Tim Grover. So
sounds good.
When you mentioned resentless, I thought of the book Relentless. I got it mixed up. Yeah, but that's the book Relentless. Sorry to cut you off.
No problem.
And Patrick Bet-David's channel is probably the best on YouTube for entrepreneurship.
Okay.
It took him a long time though. It took him 5 years. But it's big now. And there's the quote. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. That's a quote by Helen Keller. There's another awesome quote. None of us is as smart as all of us. Mm-hmm. So Jack, how can leaders set their teams up for success?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the simple answer to that is they need to model. They need to model the behaviors that they're looking for, not only in their team, but in the rest of the organization. You know, we see a lot of organizations that have great value statements, rules of operating, all that kind of stuff. And oftentimes the CEO or the leadership team is not really modeling those behaviors. And so from our perspective, it's foundational element of building a great leadership team is the CEO's role in establishing the conditions for leadership teams to be effective, right? And so there's a few things they need to do, right? From our perspective, there's two sets of factors that go into building a great leadership team. There's structural factors like who's on the team. Are they good team players? Are they technically strong? All that kind of stuff. And do they have a good meeting rhythm in place so that they're talking about strategic stuff when they need to talk about strategic stuff and operational stuff when they're talking about operational stuff. So there's a whole bunch of structural stuff that needs to be set up. And then there's all the relational dynamics, the ability for folks to trust each other, to hold each other accountable, deal with conflict well, and ultimately get and maintain alignment. And so from the leader's role is huge in establishing those structural conditions and relational conditions. And so leaders really need to practice what they preach. They need to be open to others' perspectives. They need to
lead by example, basically.
They need to lead by example. They need to receive feedback well, set clear expectations, give feedback and hold a team accountable, promote open challenge and debate, encourage face-to-face conflict management rather than resolving all the conflicts for their teams, and resist, the temptation to do back office deals rather than have, productive discussions right in the with the team. So all the basic blocking and tackling things, they got to lead by example. Exactly.
And they got to hold meetings with the team as well, right?
Absolutely.
Keep nothing secret.
That's right. Yeah, it's transparency is huge. Without it, you wind up having some serious problems.
Trust. You mentioned trust as well, man. Because in my old workplace, I got one of my teammates stole from me twice.
That's awful.
That got me upset.
Yeah, sort of.
Happened twice. One time I knew who it was, but I just let it go. Second time they stole everything, my bag and my keys, everything.
Yeah,
trust is very important.
Trust is huge.
I have to get the firemen to open my flat for me because they took my keys as well.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's an egregious lack. Yeah, that's an egregious violation of trust. Unfortunately, what we see on leadership teams is some people have a tendency to trust and then, let people violate that trust and then they have a tough time regaining it. Other people.
So you trust them to an extent. You don't trust them with everything. You can't trust people with everything.
Well, some people, what we see is that the trust is a tough thing, right? And so some people take a long time to trust others, and other people are trusting right out of the starting gate until you do something that violates it. But in any case, trust is one of those things that you really can't have a great leadership team without having trust.
But trust has to be earned, right?
Trust has to be earned, and you have to spend time as a leadership team to build and repair relationships that have gone astray because of what may seem like a lack of trust from our perspective. So what we, the more teammates get to know each other at a little bit of a deeper level beyond just going out for lunch and drinks, and really gain some insights into the where people come from, where their teammates come from. It's really, the more they can do that, the more foundation you have for building a trusting relationship. I'll give you a story from one of my clients. We were doing some initial work with their executive team, and we do this little, very simple half-hour, 45-minute exercise around personal journeys where people just talk about, where did you come from? How many kids were in your family? What was the toughest thing you went through growing up, through college? And one of the women on this particular executive team I'm thinking about had just a brutal upbringing, an abusive father, a mother that was a drug addict, and overcame all that and is a senior executive at a fairly large company now. But she's a tough nut. She's got a tough surface behind, around her. She's like, you could refer to her almost as a tough Teflon lady. She doesn't really want to reveal too much. But when she revealed that, there was a level of forgiveness in her teammates in terms of some of the behaviors that she gives off, and an ability to talk to her about how those behaviors are impacting them and their relationships together. So spending a little time getting to know each other beyond lunch and drinks is important, and very important from our perspective in building trust. You got to be vulnerable, and people have to see an effort to commit to living behaviors that are going to be effective for this team at this time, right? And so vulnerability and behavioral commitments are huge for building and repairing trust on teams.
And Jack, all teams have their ups and downs.
They sure do.
And what are some of the hurdles that hold leadership teams back?
We would say that the number one thing that holds, in fact, I'm doing a webinar tomorrow afternoon, July 25th at 1 p.m., called The Number One Thing Holding Leadership Teams Back. And what we believe is the number one thing to holding leadership team back is what we call non-productive dialogue, right? And productive dialogue is the ability for teams to challenge, debate, discuss their most important issues in a way that progresses the issues and leaves minimal relational scars. And so what we see holding teams back is their inability to have that productive, to confront, to have productive dialogue.
Jack, one of my final questions for you, Jack, is how difficult is it to measure the effectiveness of a leadership team?
It's not difficult, but it takes some diligence on the part of the CEO and the executive team to actually want to measure a few different things, right? And so there are long-term metrics that are obviously the responsibility of a leadership team, right? There's the business results that the organization is in business to achieve. And those things are, the responsibility of the CEO and the executive team to achieve those things. So there's those are sort of the long-term metrics that you can say are the most important to measure whether a leadership team is working or not. And then there's a set of more predictive or interim metrics that will predict whether the team is set up to achieve the business results it desires to achieve. And those are things like how productive are we as a team? How good are we at the relational side of trust, productive dialogue, accountability, and alignment, right? And so we use actually a diagnostic instrument at the beginning, middle, sometimes middle, and about a year into the engagements we work on from an organization called Team Coaching International. And it's called the Team Diagnostic, and it measures 7 structural elements and 7 relational elements of team effectiveness. And so what we're able to see is right out of the starting gate how the team and its stakeholders, like the direct reports of the leadership team members, how effective they see the leadership team, and then able to pinpoint a few things that the team really needs to work on. And then over the course of the time that we're working together, or even after that, we've been called in, 6 months to a year after we've worked with a team to do another diagnostic to see how well they're performing in those elements. And so we believe that those are important interim metrics that help you predict how well the team is going to do, how effective the team is going to be for the organization, its ability to scale.
Jack, what do you think about this quote by Henry Ford? If everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself.
I would agree with that quote. Everyone moving forward together is really important. Unfortunately, everyone moving forward together as an organization scales becomes harder and harder and harder. And it's aspirational. It's never going to be perfect. And from our perspective, really, really great leadership teams are in sync, are in alignment strategically, operationally, and culturally, and are able to build that fiber into the rest of the organization.
And there's another quote by Henry Ford, which says, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is a progress, working together is success.
Yeah.
So that sums up what you just said.
It sure does. I love that one. I'm going to steal that one, man.
Yeah. I'll say it again. Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success.
That's awesome. I like
that. I never
heard
heard that one before. No, but I found it on Ink. I found it on Ink. I found it on Ink, on ink.com.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's an awesome quote. So Jack, also, that's an awesome quote, Jack. So Jack, is there anything else you'd like to tell us before we end the interview?
Yeah, I have a complimentary offer for your listeners. They can go to my website at relationship-impact.com. It's a complimentary team assessment for senior executives to evaluate the structural and relational elements of their team at their current point in their life cycle. And also, with that comes a 30-minute call for us to debrief on the assessment. A
30-minute free call?
Yes, absolutely, all free.
That's very, very generous of you, Jack. And if anyone wants to contact you, where can they contact you?
Relationship-impact.com.
Fantastic. And to all the listeners, if you want to learn how to build teams, Jack and his team are the people to go to. Remember, build the people, and the people will build a company. If you know anybody that this interview will benefit, please share it with them. Please also let me know what you think in the comment section and subscribe. And I'm Jamil Jama. This is the Law of Business, and now Jack McGuinness is the interview. Thank you all very much for listening.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much, Jamil.